Grand Rising. This is the Straight Talk Morning Show on the Straight Talk Network. My name is Andre Hill, your host, and we have our co-host, our chairman of our indigenous movement, Terrence Lake. How you doing this morning, sir?
Grand Rising, everyone. I'm doing great here in the Motor City. A beautiful day. And I'd like to extend my apologies for saying Detroit was going to win last week. But
Well,
anyway,
you knew I was coming with that next,
right? You rubbed it in a little bit too. They got to redeem themselves, though, with these next two games at least.
They put up a good fight though. Listen,
that was a good game, man.
We watched it all the way to the end of it. So,
But wait a minute now, did they move the coach out of town yet?
No. I don't think that's gonna happen. Not soon, anyway.
The man said he's gonna sell his house for the sake of privacy, so he must have got some serious threats. All right. So our co-host and engineer, Andre Hill Jr., how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, making sure all the bells and whistles working over here, but everything's good.
All right. So, this is the Straight Talk Morning Show. And our purpose, I like to repeat this every now and then. Our purpose, especially for us old guys, we have one mission, and that is to raise the frequency on this planet. So this planet will be a better place for our children and our children's children. Just in case we have to come back through one of those children, we don't want to have to come back to some bull crap like what's going on right now. So we do everything. We're willing to sacrifice our lives to reveal the truth, so that we can elevate the frequency and get everybody on one mindset that this can be a paradise. It don't have to be all jacked up the way it is. Politicians robbing each other for their constituents for fame and fortune and glory. It's all screwed up, but we're gonna fix it. We're gonna help empower the young people to understand this is your planet. You don't have to pay to live on your planet. You do have to produce, but you don't have to pay a few mentally deranged, psychotic maniac, devil worshippers to live on your planet. And you do this by raising your frequency, understanding the laws of the natural laws of balance in the universe, and one simple philosophy: treat people the way you want to be treated. So that's what this is all about. We do this every Saturday to bring enlightenment and encouragement that we can change this as a collective, not as an individual, as a collective. So saying that, I'm going to go into the topics. Again, I posted on Facebook the topic, good evening, family, tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Straight Talk Network. Why we are asking the Catholic Church to set Aboriginal people free by telling the truth. So we're going to play a couple of clips this morning. Got my mouth all tangled up. And we're going to show in our book, Lucifer's Revenge, how religion and the Catholic Church over a period of 500 years created a false image for all of the planet, all the indigenous people to worship and misguide their power to a fake image versus the love within themselves. Hey, that's what this is all about. So also, we should have had flying cars by now. We still riding around in combustible engines, polluting the environment, the waterways, the animals, and we're knocking this natural ecosystem out of sorts, with this ignorance, because we got a few people, I'm not going to specify, that wants power over you, profit over the mother earth, our planet. So so that they can have their sexual fantasies, they will defile this planet to the brink of extinction just for their own selfish agenda. So we're going to talk about the program. There's a particular program, and I've been thinking about this for many years. So when you got flying cars, you know, how are we going to program them to fly around without crashing into each other? So I'm gonna
altitude lanes.
Yeah. Hey, where you get that? How you know what I'm talking about?
we here.
Where you get that from? Also, for those that are still using microwaves, pay attention. So we got a clip. The chairman brought this up. He sent this to me. I said, "Hey, chairman, you want to talk about that microwave?" And we're gonna play that clip. Something for you to think about in terms of what you put in your body. And I have a story to tell you of an experience of me working with people that have been using that microwave and what happened to them. So without further ado, we're going to go to the number one topic. And with the Catholic Church, they in their enclaves or catacombs, they have all the history of Earth stacked away and held in secret. So anytime somebody's holding something in secret, it's an attempt to enslave you. So we're going to deal with that issue and how we addressed it in our book, Lucifer's Revenge. My son, he's going to give you some excerpts on that, what we wrote in the book. And when you order a book, you will see the images, how they were created, and how long it took them to create. So so also, I like the fact that a lot of our young people are waking up. So there's a couple of clips that I sent my son of some young people expressing their views and opinions about how the Catholic Church was involved in the Great Deception. And one guy said, all you got to do is look at the fruit of these institutions. Look at the fruit that is bare, that has bare. So I think that's right. So if you look at that in terms of the corruption all over the planet, that answers the question, why are we following a doctrine that's taking us deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole? So, hey man, you got those videos loaded up?
I think I got them in order. I think I do.
All right, go ahead and play it.
Which one you want to play first?
There's a brother on there, that's giving his view of the Catholic Church and the transatlantic slave trade. And also I want you to understand, there was a transatlantic trade slave. There were people bought from Africa, but there were melanated aboriginal people already here long before the Catholic Church issued its order to enslave the whole planet. Go ahead and shoot it.
They wanted from those who didn't believe what they believed, and that was what started to open the door. And they're like, I don't believe it. Well, the Catholics will tell you themselves what they did. So now, what is it you want me to do? I mean, I'm trying to give you, I'm dropping something on you so you free your mind. But just because you've done something your entire life, it's a system. Nobody's telling you not to believe in God. Nobody's telling you to. What we're saying is analyze what you believe and get to the origins of it. If you get to the origins of what you believe, you might find out some of the things that you've deemed as witchcraft might not be as witchcraft as the thing you're following. Because whenever, the scriptures, and then I can go there with them. I said, well, the scriptures tell us that Satan came to steal, kill, and destroy. And I said, and the scriptures also tell us to judge a tree by the fruit that it bears. You don't know. I said, well, the Catholics were actually the spearhead behind the transatlantic slave trade. And they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, go to the Dumbs Diversus, Pope Nicholas V, and how he gave the authority for the Portuguese and King Alfonso V to come into West Africa and take whatever they wanted from those who didn't believe what they believed. And that was what started to open the door. And they're like, I don't believe it. Well, the Catholics will tell you themselves what they did. So now, what is it you...
So I think my son, he's ready to weigh in on that. What's your thought of that?
So sure. Well, that brother got into some particular parts of the history. But as far as the Catholic Church and in general, we just have to realize, what they were and what they became as far as what they are now. The media military arm of the whole Zionist movement that is about 2,000 years old. Say it again, the media and military arm. In other words, the military strong arm, literally the missionaries that traversed certain parts of the world, forcing people into Catholicism by torture and coercion, right? It's literally what they did. We ain't making up none. That's facts, right? That's facts. And then the other part of that same methodology was to convert everyone into Catholicism, and that is a form of mind control. Exactly what that is. It's or a strong methodology of psychological operations. Psychological operations. And now connecting that to the book, who are they doing this for? Who are they doing this for? Like you would say that the Lucifer, like I would say the Anunnaki. That's who the Catholic Church essentially became. The military arm was relatively modern, and let's say in the first millennium. In other words, from 0 AD to the year 1000, that whole time, their development over that time, they were learning so many things coming out of indigenous African metropolitans, especially Kemet, especially Kemet. So not only did they figure out how to formulate a formidable physical army, right? Because mind you, we're talking Roman Catholic Church. Y'all seen that movie 300? Y'all see how they cultivated Romans into soldiers and killing machines, right? In the same token, simultaneously while doing that, their priesthood was learning from the mystery schools and cults in Kemet on how to create quote unquote gods in the form of psychological operations. In other words, they were learning how to put themselves as the image of God, and how to force indigenous people into replacing our connection with nature and the Most High and the universe with their imagery. So that's my take on it. Did that answer your question?
Hey, that's it clarifies it to me. What do you think, Chairman, about the fruit of the Catholic Church?
Well, the Catholic Church is a monarchy. You got the head, and then it filters down where you got the sergeant of arms, and then you got your soldiers, and then you got your peasants and serfs. And they always ruled that way until they met other tribes, like when they came in touch with the blacks in Africa. Instead of using their own people, use and abuse, they used the blacks to fulfill their needs and wants and desires. So, but with the Caucasians, they're changing. They have changed. They're not the same as back in the day when they had to be a certain way. They know the difference between right and wrong. And the majority that I know want to do the right thing, and that's why you're having conflict of fighting each other. If you were on the same team, why would you fight each other? With Ukraine and Russia, what's going on over there? They were all Russians at one time. Then they just broke off because they didn't go along with the program. So our whole thing is that what we're trying to do is bring everybody together, where the church, they always divide and conquer, tell you got to do this and you got to do that, which they're not even doing themselves behind closed doors. So that's my take on religion, especially organized religion. I believe that we're all a part of God, and God wants all of us to prevail and be fruitful and multiply as his children or her children, because it's not male or female, it's just spirits. I'll land that plane right now.
Yeah, that works. So, hey, Junior, so you didn't. How long did it take the Catholic Church to create this false image?
All right, I'm not gonna be too technical about it, but I'm gonna answer your question. I got you. So before, well, let's say this: the image, because you asking about the image of Caesar Borgia and the white Jesus Christ, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So they were being formulated at the same time. So before the Catholic Church was actually, established, you had the councils, the Nicene Council, you had the different Roman councils that were formulating this entire kit and caboodle. So while they were doing these different convenings of these councils, they were doing them over, they did them over a course of about 550 years. So to get straight to that point, it took them 550 years to, let's say, character develop the key components of, or let's say, the key deity components of Christianity, essentially, meaning the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So that's what those councils were taking. They were gathering information from Greek probesters. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Probesters, who were learning from Kemetic mystery schools and cults, learning how to create a God, especially during a time where the astrological alignments were right in alignment for them. Just to say, I know that sounds redundant, but they learned, if you're going to create a God, the time is now. Right? And so they said, okay, we're going to hop on this. And they were very diligent about taking whatever measures necessary and being thorough and diligent about it, and did it over a course of 550 years. Now, mind you, you got to think about the life expectancy at that time. People probably only live until about 50 years old at the time. So you're talking 550 years. This is generational. They were passing this regime down and keeping it going. You see what I'm saying? So in other words, so let's say in year 400 AD, there's some guy on the second Council of Nicaea, and he served on that council for, let's say, I don't know, 20 years. He dies. He's got to have a successor. He passed all that information on to somebody else, and they keep it going. And they kept it going. So so he did that, and simultaneously, this is where their military arm, in other words, their actual soldiers were going around the world to the best of their ability. Now, mind you, let me say that this is very important. I always say this, especially for our indigenous people around the world. For the most part, you did not have Europeans rolling up on indigenous people, especially in their strongholds, and kicking their butt. That's not how that went down. In most cases, they rolled up and it was a fight, it was a scrap, and they pulled up on you on your land. Most of the time they lost. So what they did was retreated. They said, all right, we're gonna go attack smaller tribes that we know we can take. That's usually how they won those type of wars. But either way, they would come with a gun or a sword, either one of the two. But they would also come with a doctrine, aka a Bible, that they formulated over these 550 years. They say your way of life is demonic, and you need to convert your whole way of living into what we have programmed here for you.
All right. So there's a young lady. I think she's a rising star. Can you play her video? She has an interesting take on. She did some thorough research in the alignment of developing the religions and what they deem sacred or not. You playing up from the beginning?
Well, you know.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead and play.
For harm to come to someone. This curse comes from the King James Holy Bible. It should be noted that the word rebuke is not used a single time in the oldest version of the English Bible. It should also be noted that the Slave Bible, which was a version of the Bible that was edited to leave out passages that might encourage the enslaved peoples to seek freedom, was chosen from the King James Bible. Additionally, we know from the Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall, Holy Bible is really just code for Helios Biblios, which means sun book. With that being said, the Bible is a grimoire. A grimoire is a spell book. Grimoires are typically bound in leather. Bibles are typically bound in leather. Grimoires are typically embossed with mystical symbols or patterns. Bibles are typically embossed with mystical symbols or patterns. Grimoires typically include illustrations. Bibles typically include illustrations. Now that we all know that the Bible is a spellbook called a grimoire, grimoire comes from the Latin word grimori, meaning grammar. Remember, when you learn the alphabet, you are learning to spell. When you write in Catholic script, you are writing in cursive. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and the word is God. With all that being said, the spellbook specifically tells you that Jesus is Lucifer, if you're looking for it. Let me show you. Isaiah 14:12 reads, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning." Let's break that down. First, we learned that Lucifer fell from heaven. It's important to remember that in the book of Enoch, we learned that the fallen angels are celestial bodies. More specifically, they are stars which have fallen from heaven to earth. Just to be clear, the sun is definitely a star. But that calls Jesus not Lucifer, the morning star. How are they the same? Let me show you. Revelation 22:16 reads, "I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto these things in the churches. I am the root of offspring of David and the bright and morning star." Now tell me, what is the bright and morning star? You guessed it, the son of the morning. Remember, the sun walks on water and rises from the dead every morning. And just so we're all on the same page, the devil has a whole host of angels, 1/3 of heaven to be exact, what some would call 33%. Anyways.
So that is a very interesting take. And the young generation, they're gravitating towards this frequency because, you know, they're looking at me and the chairman's generation and said, we are y'all gonna still continue to go along with this illusion, you know? And I know this is a very difficult issue for a lot of the religious leaders because, you know, as we demonstrated on a previous show, there is a special bank that says we will finance your church and get you up and running as long as you practice and teach the syllabus that we prescribe for your followers, you know. And so, and in exchange, technically, they sold the soul of that body of people to a religious doctrine in exchange for money to get a mortgage that you have to pay back, you know, to this banking institution who is controlled by these mentally deranged psychotic maniacs. So I understand there's a dilemma. You know, a lot of the followers of this church structure, they will become collateral damage. But the beauty of the universe is that it recycles. You know, whatever your spiritual challenges are, you will be recycled, and you know it may take you 1,000 years or what have you. But those of you that are waking up now and applying common sense to the reality of our situation, you will be the chosen ones. You will create the paradox or the paradigm of the new earth. And that's just how it rolls, you know. So don't despair. for those individuals that are following that lost doctrine, I remember telling my aunt, she was an educator, a principal, and all that. And I said, well, listen, this will be waiting for you in the next life. And sure enough, the guardians or the divine order allowed me to see her after she had transitioned, and she had this perplexed look on her face, like, wow, out of the mouths of babes, because I was a child, and she used to change my diapers, but yet I gave her prophecy on how things were going to change and how people were going to wake up. So we're going to keep it moving. The next issue is the flying cars. So my son busted me out and explained explained, the exact same theory that I was going to use and describe in terms of, how do you regulate flying cars? So I pulled up an article, and of course the article it must have been sponsored by the oil industry, because they placed doubt on it. While the concept of flying cars may seem enticing, numerous challenges lie in their path to widespread adoption. Technological constraints such as energy efficient battery life and safety must be addressed to ensure the viability and practicality of these vehicles. See, so that's some bull crap already.
That is bullshit.
Yeah, so with electromagnetic propulsion engine, you have a power source that generates electricity. That electricity is dispersed to the outer realms of the vehicle or the craft, and it reverses the positive and negative poles with the vehicle in relation to the earth. So the earth has this grounding pattern, and it has this conduits of electrical charges. And so you have to synchronize. I'm talking to the young scientists that are sitting back saying, yeah, man, it'd be cool for some flying cars, man. So but that's the theory that you guys got to work on creating a power system that can generate an enormous amount of electricity and then disperse it to a reversal of the positive negative poles in relation to the earth. So get to work, guys, because if you stick with this oil and gasoline, it will destroy your environment, because the fumes goes into the air, it goes into the river, it kills the bees, it kills the fish, it kills the ecological effect, and then you got to now live in a desolate planet. So why do that when you smart guys and girls can start developing these systems? Now, how do you regulate the flight patterns? So my son. I was going to explain that in a directional system, there has to be a program linked into the direction you're traveling. So my son already says altitude. What did you say it was?
Altitude lanes.
Altitude lanes. So if you're going east, west, you elevate at a certain altitude, and all the vehicles are going in that direction, so they're not crashing into each other. If you're going north, south, or whatever direction you're in, it takes you to a specific altitude. Now I know I was thinking this. Maybe I talked about it at some point with my son, but he knew immediately. So your young generation, you know how to write a program for that. Just sit back, relax, and think about it, and you will come up with that program. And all these monies and resources that are focusing on concrete and expansions of bridges and all that stuff, that will become obsolete. I know I just killed the whole industry.
Yeah, let's kill it even further. So
I have no, go ahead. I was going to say I have some input on that flying car theory. It's already been perfected. All you do is look at the drones. Look at the drone shows that they have today. They got thousands of drones making moving pictures and all this, and they never had a crash. So you use that technology in the future, and you got your flying cars. I mean, we're getting all this from the universe because if you look at the universe, look at the sun and the earth, how it revolves around it. You don't see wings on the earth, you don't see wings on the moon, but everything is revolving and not flowing in each other. The only problem is where they had planets around that one belt between Mars and Jupiter, the asteroid belt, that there seemed to be a planet that was destroyed, and that's why you got all those meteors, you know, and the asteroids around that belt. That was something that I think man might have created through negligence that destroyed it, and that's why it's just grouped around the sun, but in its own orbit. But it just shows you we learn from nature. And with these drones, that's a proven fact. Look at it. It's amazing. Okay.
All right. So, you know, the oil industry, I remember several guys came out with a hydrogen fuel cell. It's a very simple component. It's a tube that if you inject water through it, the electrical charge separates the gas from the liquid. And that gas burns just as efficient as gasoline. So everybody that developed those systems, you know, and the problem, here's the problem with that. If you develop that system and say, I'm gonna get rich, then you're in direct competition with these mentally deranged psychotic maniacs. So if you develop it in a tribal, and you share it with your friends, you know, convert their cars, you know, very soon those mentally deranged psychotic maniacs, they will unravel because all of a sudden their gasoline prices are gonna fall, you know. So in order for you to change this paradigm, to usher in this paradigm shift, you all have to think on the same level. You have to think positive. You have to think of how can we help? How can we make a difference on this planet? How can we improve the life on this planet? And you have to do it as a collective. Individual thinking and selfishness, hey, you're making yourself subjected to those mentally deranged because that's how they thrive, on your selfishness. All right. So any other thoughts on that, man? Junior?
Particularly on the flying cars, when we, in most cases, especially when y'all, was the Jetsons, when did the Jetsons start?
It was in the 60s.
The 60s?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you notice in the Jetsons that, or any modern movie that depicts flying cars, in most cases, they're always talking about some futuristic metropolis that sometimes is built on top of a war-torn area. Take, for instance, in particular, one of the key ones was, what's the movie? Fifth Element.
Oh, yeah.
When New York was built on, new New York was built on top of an old New York. And that's why they had flying cars in the first place, because everything below was essentially a dump and a graveyard, right? So just touching on what you were saying, you know, they want to invent flying cars after they had completely trashed the environment, and it became a thing of necessity. But before we get to that point, let's think of it like this: when we begin to create or develop self-sustainable microcosms, these large major cities, you're not going to have to live that type of lifestyle anyway, because that type of population condensity, that's going to become obsolete, right? Because just me being in the construction industry, in the environmental industry, if y'all knew what you're subjected to as far as your utilities, let's say your water, living in a major city, right? In other words, let me just say this. Can you really imagine that, you know, living in a major city? And mind you, we live in a major city, all of us. I'm a city boy, right? So I ain't talking stuff about, you know, our city people. But all the water that's coming out your tap that you take your shower with, that you wash all your dishes with, everybody in the city uses that water to bathe and defecate in and use a bathroom in every day, even though they send that to a water treatment plant. But can you imagine what it takes to clean and recycle the water that everybody uses every day? Right?
Horrible
thoughts, right? So it would behoove us to start dispersing the condensedness of the population in some of these major cities. We're gonna start building these microcosms out in more rural lands with the mind state of building what we call eco-friendly communities, to where your everyday usage of basic needs is cleaner. Now with the flying cars thing, now you can imagine instead of you having to drive over the roads, over the rivers, over the mountains to get from one microcosm to the next. No, you just hop in your flying car and you type in microcosm B in your GPS system in your car, and to get you there in about 10 minutes, probably over the course of 200 miles, right? At certain altitude. You see what I'm saying? That's the kind of future we're imagining here in utopia that we're imagining here, which will allow us as human beings to get to experience higher frequency experiences instead of these low vibrational experiences that we're dealing with every day, dealing with this fossil fuel matrix. All right, I'm landing the plane. We got some more stuff to talk about.
Well, two issues here. The fossil fuel. There was a trend going on where beautiful melanated women from America would fly to Dubai, and because they're looking for their Prince Charming, which had a big purse, a large, huge bank account from the oil industry. And what this all boils down to, and you got to think about this, those beautiful melanated women that flew to Dubai, a lot of them had to turn over their passports. And when they did that, they subjected themselves for the sake of money to sexual abuse, to horrific ends. I'm going to Dubai. It was a trend. If you didn't go to Dubai, you ain't what's happening. But those guys that are making trillions of money out of our pockets, basically set up these sexual fantasy factories or slave factories or sexual whatever. And they did some horrendous things to these beautiful melanated women that were looking for that so-called pie in the sky. So, that's what this is all about. That whole economy is sustained by us being dumb enough to ruin the Mother Earth that we live on, so for these guys' sexual fantasies. All right? So think about that. And that should be your motivation, because if you have a mother, a sister, a daughter, and if we don't fix this, those idiots will continue to, if they will murder somebody that will build a hydrogen fuel cell, just to keep it quiet so they can keep selling gasoline to have this sexual fantasy. That's not a good world you want to live in. So that was a point I thought I would bring out. The other point is, and the chairman, you remember this, the Jetsons, in the Jetsons movie, cartoon, did you ever see any black people?
No. That's what used to make me afraid of back in the day. Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon didn't see no black people either. And they were flying around from other planets.
So that was a subliminal message to keep Caucasian people caught up in the fantasy that if you maintain white supremacy, you don't have to compete with black people because we're going to eliminate them. That was a subliminal message. Also, the subliminal message I got from it is that we're going to hold this technology until we kill off all the black people. Then we're going to free it up, because the United States military already have this, they have this technology in their possessions right now. They know how to create electromagnetic propulsion engine. They know all, they just holding back on it until, just like the Jetsons had prophesied, their hopes, there won't be any black people. So all of these Caucasian people are being delusional, misinformed, that if you eliminate these black folks, then we're gonna free up all this technology and you can live for free on the planet. That's an illusion. You have to remember, Lucifer was a black man and he wanted revenge against the Most High. Go out and buy our book, lucifersrevenge.net. Get a copy of it. It sends a message, whether you read it or not. The numbers sends a message to these mentally deranged psychotic maniacs that they know their pimp game has been exposed. That's what our book does. It exposes it. And they can't no longer play that game. So typically what rats do is when the ship is sinking, they jump overboard and start swimming. So let's get these maniacs overboard and into the water, let them swim off into their destiny, because they got some serious karma to play. Hey, any other comments on that, Chairman, about the Jetsons?
No, it fed your mind, of, like you say, the future as far as technology. Now, I don't go along with the aspects of trying to eliminate the black people, even though a certain percentage might feel that way. That's obvious, but the average realized that, we were bound here on planet Earth to get it together. And there's not going to work no other way unless we come together, because there's more than enough room for all of us, more than enough.
Absolutely. Hey, man. Well, keeping it moving, we're going to go ahead and deal with that microwave. You had that microwave video? I got a unique story about the microwave issue. The chairman sent me this video, and I thought it was quite interesting, how the microwave came about.
Same flour, bought at the same shop. And one you water with regular water, and the other you water with microwave water. The one you water with microwave water is dead in 3 to 7 days. Dead, not minusculely growing. No, it's done. The military started to, for reasons to get food faster warmed up for our military, they tried microwaved food. After 3 days they had to stop because everybody was throwing up, dizzy and nauseous. The microwave is basically destroying every food value that's in the food and turning it into a toxin. So everything out of the microwave is highly toxic. And the food value is completely zero. So it doesn't really matter if you have a bowl of vegetable soup that you warm up in the microwave oven, or if you eat cardboard. It makes no difference, because the food value is not there anymore, and it also becomes toxic.
You get that from the beginning? Okay. Hey,
most people have microwave ovens, cook a lot of food that way. Is that good?
It's the best way to kill yourself really, really fast. You can even do a test. Microwave water, let it go cold so you don't think the heat did it. And you have your flower pots, 2 flower pots with the same flour, bought at the same shop. And one you water with regular water, and the other you water with microwave water. The one you water with microwave water is dead in 3 to 7 days. Dead, not minusculely growing. No, it's done. The military started to, for reasons to get food faster warmed up for our military, they tried microwaved food. After 3 days they had to stop because everybody was throwing up, dizzy and nauseous. The microwave is basically destroying every food value that's in the food and turning it into a toxin. So everything out of the microwave is highly toxic. And the food value is completely zero. So it doesn't really matter if you have a bowl of vegetable soup that you warm up in the microwave oven, or if you eat cardboard. It makes no difference because the food value is not there anymore, and it also becomes toxic.
All right. Hey, Chairman, you still using your microwave?
Periodically, yes, I have to admit, you know. But I did a little research on that, and there's two views of the microwave because a lot of people are doing study on the microwave. And it goes, according to two reviews, microwaving does not reduce nutrient value more than other cooking methods. An old study of 20 different vegetables noted that microwaving and baking preserve antioxidants the best, while pressure cooking and boiling did the worst. One older study found that just 1 minute of microwaving destroyed some of the cancer-fighting compounds in garlic, while this took 45 minutes in a conventional oven. Now, keep in mind that the type of food or nutrient sometimes matters. Microwaving breast milk has been found to be effective in preventing cytomegalovirus infections. With a few exceptions, microwaves trend to preserve nutrients very well. One advantage of microwaving is that the food doesn't heat up nearly as much as it does with other cooking methods, such as frying. So they say with microwaving your water, sometimes you'll have a warm spot and you have a cold spot. So you have to, you know, mix it up a little bit because of what it's doing. But like I say, there are still studies out pro and con, you know, and it's like, you know, choose your poison, you know. I mean, I've been dealing with microwave for a long time. I like sweets too, and I've got diabetes. I don't stop eating sweets. I just don't eat as much as I ate.
I got you. Well, you know, I have a unique story. When I was transitioning from Washington, D.C. to Nashville, Tennessee, one of the last contracts I was working for this orthopedic surgeon. And, you know, so he had a mansion out in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. And his maid, or I would say technical household help, would cook the food and she would use 2 microwaves to cook the dinner for the entire house. You know, so they gave me a room because I was the construction manager to expand in this mansion. And I said, wow, she's using both of these microwaves. And I instinctively felt that that's not really good. I don't think that's good, you know. But I was hungry, so I ended up eating that food, but it was temporary. And as soon as I got back to Nashville, of course, I tried to stay in my healthy mode. But everybody in that particular house and some of the other people that frequent and continue frequenting that house, they all died from cancer. They're gone. They was the same age as me, and this was like 20-something years, 20 or 30 years ago, and I'm still here because I got a wave. I didn't think that microwave was safe. So, you know, we got a toss up here. Also, one of the things that happened, that same doctor, we had a deal to build a 63,000 square foot food processing plant in Nashville, and the doctor kind of flipped the script and wanted to buy a plant in Baltimore. And there were 2 NFL greats that was also bidding on this plant. So what he was doing was underhanding the proposal that I had put together. So negative energy, greed, and microwaves is a formula for destruction and death. So if you were doing devious, low down things, if I were you, I'd definitely stay away from that microwave.
Indeed. Hey, listen, I got a continuing the topic on the Catholic Church. I know we got past a little bit, but this is relative to the entire conversation. We kind of talked about it before on a previous show, but there's a Catholic priest named Michael Baggett, and what he talks about is the Catholic Church's plans when it comes to converting everybody into transhumanism. I'm just gonna say it straight like that, right? I think that's important for us to note and talk about going forward, especially with the Vatican's plans for the future, for one, depopulation, and then what they're going to do, or what they're going to attempt to do with some of the remaining population. Mind you, not a fear factor necessarily, but this is what the plan is, okay? So I'm going to share this video. Not going to look through the whole thing, but just give y'all a gist of what this guy, or how this guy, who was, I believe he was a Catholic in his childhood, and then he became somewhat of a scientist and atheist at some point, and I think he returned to Catholicism as and became a Catholic priest. Let's hear what he has to say though about the Catholic Church's plans on transhumanism.
Kind of set the path for transgenderism, where I'm not my body, I am however I identify.
If you go back to the main enemies, aging, sickness, suffering, death, a lot of that comes back to this lump of flesh, which is really frail and vulnerable. So let's fix it up. Let's use the best that we have in terms of technology, gene editing, pharmaceutical products, body-computer interface. Let's use all of our best tools and gadgets.
Before we get to our clip, do us a favor and click subscribe and that bell button below. 2/3 of people who watch us regularly aren't yet subscribed, and it really supports the channel. When you do subscribe, it's free, costs nothing, and I really appreciate it. When did you get interested in transhumanism?
Oh, so when they asked me to do the doctorate in bioethics, I knew from the beginning that I wanted to address a topic that had not been treated exhaustively by someone else, right? I don't want to just repeat what's already been done. There's so many important topics that have already been well covered. So I'm looking around at the options, and I started to see lots of reports about this crazy idea of transhumanism. And I thought, this is kind of weird, but interesting at the same time, and it involves so many emerging technologies.
And I know we're going to get into this, but just real briefly, how did you hear about it, and what was conveyed to you as you began learning about this thing? What is transhumanism as you understood it then?
Right. So at first, transhumanism just basically seemed like using technology to make life better, and then eventually turn us into kind of digital immortal spirits. So I didn't have a great grasp on it initially, but then I discovered after reading a few other articles, okay, this is a really serious, small, but serious cultural intellectual movement to radically enhance humanity. So radical improvements through biotechnology, and at a physical, cognitive, moral, mood, and lifespan level. So using the tools of technology to basically make us smarter, fitter, happier, more beautiful, more productive in society, and to live longer, if not forever. And so I started to see reports of this, and I'm like, I don't know, this is kind of odd. But there's some serious people with lots of money who are either behind this or at least sympathetic to these ideas. And so I'm reflecting on it. I was teaching at a summer program that I still teach at called the Catholic Worldview Fellowship. So shout out to the Catholic Worldview Fellowship, this great summer program that I've been teaching at for 5 years that immerses students in Catholic culture through history, art, architecture, philosophy, theology in Germany and in Rome, Italy. And I was there, and Ryan T. Anderson came to join us to teach. And he had just finished his book on transgenderism.
Right, when Harry became Sally.
Exactly. So
now banned from Amazon still, yes. I believe.
So he had just finished the book, and I knew that he was following a lot of trends in bioethics. And I chatted with him in one of the breaks because we were both teaching at the summer program. And I asked him, Ryan, what do you think about this transhumanism idea? You've been dealing with transgender. What about transhumanism? Do you think that this is the next big thing, or is this just a fad that's going to pass? Because I don't want to spend 3 to 5 years of my life in something that's completely irrelevant by the time I finish, right? So I'm chatting with him, and he thought for a little while, and he said, well, I think that transgenderism is a cultural moment. So it clearly has a big impact on society. It's worth writing a whole book about. It's serious, but it will pass. There is a kind of resiliency of human nature. People will fight back, will rebel, or will resist these ideas eventually. We don't know how long the moment will last, but it's a temporary moment. And he said, basically, I think that transhumanism will have a deeper and more longer lasting impact on society. That's really interesting from someone who's just spent so much effort on this cultural moment of transgenderism. And you know what, Matt? Honestly, after so many years of research, after working on a book, after publishing articles, giving conferences, I think he's right. Because really, we're talking about a small little movement of convinced diehard transhumanists, card-carrying transhumanists in Silicon Valley and Oxford and a few other places. But there are so many other people who are at least sympathetic to these ideas, influenced by these ideas, attracted by these ideas. And it's a great platform to talk about our relationship with technology in general. And we're all immersed in it. And I also am thoroughly convinced that there are so many philosophical movements that we in the West have already bought into that have prepared us for key tenets of transhumanism. Just to give an example, right? To believe in transhumanism, to believe that we can get to a point of digitally downloading our personality and uploading it to another substrate, another body, another robotic structure, or to the network. That depends on a pretty strong anthropological dualism, right? A separation, a split between the self, whatever that is. Usually they don't want to call it a soul, but that's mysterious self, and this outward body, which is seen as an external instrument, right? So that is key to the transhumanist projects, at least the most radical transhumanist projects like digital immortality. We have totally bought into that.
Right, and that Cartesian idea kind of set the path for transgenderism, where I'm not my body, I am however I identify. Real quick though, I mean, people might hear transgenderism and they hear transhumanism and they think it's kind of the same thing. But I mean, there's obvious, it's, with transgenderism, I can decide that I'm something other than I am.
Right.
That's not necessarily what we mean by transhumanism, right? By transhumanism, we mean...
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting that there is a connection, but it's important to distinguish the movements, right? So Nick Bostrom is a professor at Oxford University, and he's one of the leading philosophers of this movement. You get people like Ray Kurzweil, who was head engineer in Google for many years, who has done a great job of telling the story and weaving the narrative and inspiring people. But I think Nick Bostrom is an even more serious philosopher who's wrestled with these ideas. And Nick Bostrom wrote this whole frequently asked question document with other leading transhumanist thinkers. And right at the beginning, he says basically, this is a cultural intellectual movement to radically enhance people through biotechnology at these different levels: physical, cognitive in terms of our intelligence, mood in terms of how well we feel, also moral in terms of how well we can make ethical judgments without prejudice and with the proper motivation, and in terms of lifespan, to eventually overcome all of the major perennial difficulties of life: aging, sickness, suffering, death, right? And so that's the goal of transhumanism.
So transhumanism sounds sane, right? Transhumanism is delusion. It's a delusion to think that you're something other than you are, whereas transhumanism sounds like we're harnessing technology to enhance ourselves. So in that...
All right. I think I get the point. I get the point, right? All right. Now, what the way he was conveying that was a soft sell. Y'all see what I'm saying? The very soft introduction. And as far as I'm concerned, he seems like one of the perfect people to start conveying this agenda to the masses. with his Roman Catholic priest garb on, right? But this is the total agenda of the whole transhumanist movement. For one, when we wrote this, we wrote about this in the book, and I'm gonna make this short, sweet, and profound because we run out of time. In our book, Lucifer's Revenge, we talk about the astrological age of which we're in, moving into the age of Aquarius, which is primarily about technological advancement, which is a mirror age to the age of Taurus before. What we're talking 6,000 years ago, when the megalithic structures around the world were a prominent thing being built, right? So when I say a mirroring, in other words, the energy of those two ages are relatively the same, the frequency of them. So as we wonder still to this day, how did our ancient ancestors build these megalithic structures without the type of tools that we have today? The reason why is because their frequency was higher. As far without getting into the specifics, their frequency was higher. They had a much greater attunement to the planet itself, and they were able to build with natural materials very effectively, right? So where we are right now, again, is at a mirror frequency and age of that period. And what we're seeing it now is through how can we call this? Let's just call it this modern technological age. And we're seeing some technological advancements that are formidable, that are somewhat beneficial, but they're also controlled by mainly by parasitic elite on this planet, right? Now, here's what the parasitic elite are. They're realizing that while we're moving forward into this age of Aquarius at a higher frequency, they're not going to be able to continue to manipulate the masses with this PSYOPs program that they've been pulling off for the last 2,000 years, right? So they're going to try to implement the continuation of the PSYOPs program in this technological era through transhumanism. So they're going to build the same type of caste system that they've had developed over the last 2,000 years into the new technological era. So what does a caste system look like inside of transhumanism in the new technological era? Well, the people if they can maintain this illusion of the monetary system, so all of the quote unquote rich people have access to all the good transhumanism technology. In other words, exactly what he was talking about on there, being able to download your quote unquote consciousness into a hard drive and save it somewhere to be uploaded into another body later on. In other words, like he said, you gotta listen close to what he was saying, for immortality. For immortality. In other words, them trying to say, you know what, we're going to bypass the natural life cycles of the universe that have been perfected over eons of time, and we're going to do this the unconventional microwaved way, right? We're going to say, no, we're not going to go through the natural cycles of quote unquote life and death. I don't want to give up this power that I have. So I want to be able to download this personality, this brain capacity that I have with all the information still stored into a hard drive, onto a computer, whatever the case, and upload it into another body so I can continue what I'm doing. Because take, for instance, if the people in the Council of Nicaea were capable of doing that, they would have done that too, right? So now, them being capable of doing that, they also want to control and manipulate the artificial intelligence systems and virtual reality systems. All right, now mind you, I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in the video game era. Right? I grew up knowing exactly how immersed you can become in playing a very interactive video game. And I watched how well they developed from when I was playing Sega Genesis all the way up to PlayStation. All my 80s and 90s babies know what I'm talking about when I talk about these game consoles, right? And we watched the evolution of them. And so what I've also noticed is now, again, me being an 80s baby, we used to play the video games, don't get me wrong, but we would cut them off and we still go outside. What I'm starting to realize, these children now, they be up 4, 5, 6 in the morning playing this game because they can truly log into it. They can do stuff we couldn't do back then. They can get on this video game. They can talk and play the video game talk to and play the video game with people across the world, right? In other words, they can straight up log into a virtual reality system and live a totally different life, and they're doing it. They're doing that right now. So the parasitic elite want to control that. In other words, they want to create an entirely new virtual reality matrix that the majority of especially these new generation can log into, right? Talking about virtual real estate and all kind of stuff. Right? So also parasitic elite, they want the ability. So once they're able to download their consciousness into a hard drive and upload it to a new body, even if they don't do that, the body that they have now, they want to be able to augment it extensively. In other words, meaning if they want to attach a tiger arm to their body, surgically attach a tiger arm to their body, they'll do that. In other words, they want to, just like you said in the video, they want to be able to biologically enhance themselves, however they see fit, right? But of course, you're going to have the money or whatever credit system or whatever compromises you're going to have to do in order to have access to that. All right. So now everybody at the bottom who ain't got that type of money, can you imagine what type of world, what type of new virtual reality ghetto that's going to create? And what type of a system mimicking this one that they're going to perpetuate inside of a virtual reality, artificially intelligent universe? To where, mind you, because that's what he said. Because mind you, he's a Catholic priest, and in that video, he tried to make a distinction between the consciousness and the soul. In other words, he's saying, don't worry about your soul. Don't worry about that part. Just be able to log into what we're gonna produce for you, and just abide by this new system. Matter of fact, they probably try to sell it, as profoundly as they possibly can. You imagine anybody who is allegedly downtrodden in life, who lives a quote unquote rough life in the real world, but they'd be able to log into this virtual reality world and be whoever they want to be. Matter of fact, we're already doing it. People on Facebook and Instagram are already doing that. You seeing all these fake pages pop up? People claiming who they just robbing a bunch of photos from one profile and creating another one.
But they have an enhancement program where you can make your body look like you were a superstar, exactly. Fine, 36, 24, 36.
Exactly.
And you 60 years old and exactly. Out of shape. So the issue here is by these mentally deranged psychotic maniacs to maintain control through artificial intelligence. That's the ultimate decision every species have to make at some point. In the natural laws of the universe, each life that you experience is just that, an experience. You're going through various trials and tribulations based on this particular lifetime and the body type and the program of when you manifested in this lifetime. So the 144 different human personalities, you're going to pick one of those personalities because your soul needs that experience to evolve to a higher frequency. So that's the natural order of the universe. And then after you have completed this natural process of experiences, then you die, and then your body expires, but your soul moves to another body in a higher realm or a higher frequency for a new experience. That's the natural order. So when humans want to intercept that and create their paradigm of controlling and trapping your soul in an eternal low frequency, then that's a problem. You know, and what you're gonna realize, these are mentally deranged humans that want to be gods. They're delusional. Hey, we over time. Chairman, you got any closing words?
Last words.
No closing words. It's been a good program, very informative. I'm quite sure the audience got some knowledge today.
Absolutely. And go out and go to lucifersrevenge.net and order Lucifer's Revenge, because you know what I noticed? I noticed that some of my educated melanated sisters, especially the ones with the PhDs, they get very interesting about this book, and because it challenges their PhD program. You know, because in their mind, and this is my interpretation, you know, I paid all this money to get a PhD, and you don't put it in a book, that you're going to elevate everybody beyond my PhD. I can't talk about this. Go out and get a copy of this book, elevate yourself beyond the PhD doctrine, and become one with the universe. Hey, I'm going to leave it to the engineer to go ahead and close it out.
Well, family, yeah, just like the chairman said, it's been a good one. We love y'all. Peace and love. Thank you for all the support. We'll see you next week.
Peace out.
Conversation, peace.